Welcome to the ASA stage, the American Soybean Association stage at the 2022 Commodity Classic. I'm Brownfield anchor reporter Meghan Grebner, and with us today are a couple of farmers from the American Soybean Association, Stan Bourne from Illinois, Alan Meadows from Texas. Tennessee. Gosh, I don't know why I have Texas on the brain today. I apologize.
You're good.
Somebody had to make a mistake first, so we'll let it be me, and then we'll be smooth sailing from here on out.
Okay.
All right, we're going to get into some of the issues. Let's start first, Stan, and talk trade. The Secretary of Agriculture was here today on stage speaking to farmers and talked about how they're ramping up trade missions again. So as you look at that, is that a good sign for agriculture in the U.S., knowing that they're starting to explore markets a little bit deeper?
Right. So thank you very much, Megan. And it is indeed a good sign, particularly from two aspects. One is that these trade missions that that they'll focus on are largely in areas that I would call developing markets. And so it's very important for us to continue to diversify, because the Secretary also talked about China and the importance of the Chinese market for us. It's always going to be important for us, but we have to be ever diligent and vigilant to work to develop new markets around the world for our products.
When you think about some of the places that they're looking, we saw what happens when a lot of our soybeans goes to one market and that market gets disrupted. How important is the diversification and looking into some of these emerging markets to the sustainability and the viability of trade and profitability for American soybean farmers?
Well, it's really important, and maybe from a little different angle. It's really important because there's people everywhere, and people love to eat, and particularly when you think about our product and the importance of protein and nutrition in a child's diet. You know, there's a lot of, every kid deserves a chance, right? And there's lots of kids around the world that it's in their culture they don't have the access and the availability of high protein to help develop their minds and their bodies and make them good contributors, in their societies. And so it's really important obligation for us to make sure that we get our products into many places around the world that don't naturally have that access. So diversification is good from a people standpoint. And from a business standpoint, it's good too. It really protects us when we get into situations like we've seen recently with China. And so through our United Soybean Export Council, through USEC, we're working every day. We've got people with boots on the ground in 80 countries working to diversify and develop new markets and uses for American soy.
After farmers got to speak with the secretary or hear from the secretary earlier, reporters had a chance to ask him a few questions, and he was asked about not having that trade person in at USDA. As a farmer and knowing how much trade is important to what you do, do you get a little concerned not having that trade point person in at USDA yet?
Yeah, it's so it is important to make sure that we have a dedicated resource. It's there's an old axiom: what gets measured gets done, and if there's nobody there to measure on those attributes, it isn't going to get done. And so, yes, it's important. I know they're working hard to get the approvals done for in USTR for the Ag Ambassador. And my understanding is that they're on the hunt at USDA. But sure, we'd like to see it. We'd like to see it faster. And in addition to that, we want to make sure that they've got a robust and viable strategy to work on developing new markets and new trade agreements.
Alan, let's talk a little regulatory issues. We, as soybean farmers, those tools that you have available to you are vitally important. As you've seen some more talk about dicamba, talk to me a little bit about those types of issues and how important it is to make sure those crop protection products are available for farmers.
So, absolutely. In my part of the world, dicamba is a very important tool in our toolbox. And, and not only dicamba, we'll talk, a host of other chemicals right now that are hard to get, just supply chain issues. So, at ASA, we're doing everything that we can to try to make sure that our farmers have all the options and tools available to them that they would need at their disposal to be able to continue to raise crop in the best, most efficient way.
You're not too far from the start of
Right.
planting season.
I'm in the epicenter of that and the epicenter of resistance and everything else. So.
When you look at going into this planting season, and Stan, you as well, how concerning are these supply chain disruptions and knowing the fact that there's struggles not just to get parts for your machinery or tires or whatever you need to do for your equipment, but actually getting the product delivered to you?
Yeah, so it's a big concern. I mean, there are, this process started last fall, trying to obtain inputs, so that you made sure that you had them on hand to put your crop in. And luckily, we have been able to get on hand a lot of what we'll need, but yet still there will be things that come that you need. But, hopefully we have got our bases covered for the most part, but it's a scary time to think that, that you might not be able to get something you need to put a crop in. And when you can get it, I can speak for myself personally that, it's a lot of stuff that my inputs are up, 3 times on certain crop protection products of what they were last year.
Stan?
Yeah, so I have been, my personal experience so far has been very positive. Our retailers have done a good job planning ahead. I'm a planner, so I did all of that work last fall, and I was like Alan. I was crying a boohoo when I bought some of my inputs because I thought they were terrible price. Now I look like a genius,
That's pretty good, wasn't it?
So yeah, I'm feeling a lot better about myself. But no, it's we do have to be ever vigilant. I think there's going to be places where we're going to have to be a little flexible. We may not, like when it comes to crop protectants, we may not be able to get the strategy that we wanted to use, and may have to flex a little bit on some of the protectants that we use, just due to availability. But we'll get by.
One of the inputs maybe we don't think about, we talk about crop protection products, right? Diesel fuel or fuel in general. I spoke with a farmer this week in Ukraine and said for them to get started in planting, they're 200,000 tons short of diesel fuel because they don't have it available. Yeah. How concerning, and when you're looking at profitability, and farmers around the country are having those conversations, looking at the price of fuel and that input as well.
Well, for me personally, it's fuel is a big deal, and I think it just stresses the need. Everything kind of plays off of each other. So, I'm primarily a no-till farmer. So my diesel fuel consumption over the years has went down, but when you do that, the need for certain crop protection things go up. So you take the tillage away, it kind of all goes hand in hand. So, as one maybe trends down, the other trends up. So the whole supply chain, whichever end or aspect of it we want to talk about, it's really critical.
Yeah, and I think, you mentioned the point about availability. I haven't experienced any issues relative to availability. It's just an issue of price.
That's it.
You want it, you got to pay for it. And so then, I got to be better about my marketing then, I guess, on the revenue side. If my costs
sharpen
go
the pencil.
Up, sharpen that pencil, that's right.
I'm sure everybody's budget pencils are going to get a workout.
I was going to say, I'm all about my third pencil, I think.
Sharpen erasers. Like, how many erasers have you gone through too? What do you think about this?
Yeah, that's right.
It's so interesting when we talk about that whole bottom line, and I don't think there is a better economist in the country than a farmer, because you got to think about every single aspect of this, and you really have to look at so many different things. So we talk about everything tying together. We need demand. Farmers need demand to have commodity prices supported, and that kind of ties back to trade and the need for solid trade.
That's right. Yeah, and to me, the demand is the most important thing that I'm concerned about. As long as there's growing and good demand, we're going to be all right. We'll do fine. And there's plenty of that out there as economies improve. People move from a carbohydrate diet to a more protein-rich diet. It's like a ladder, they move from eating rice to eating fish to eating chicken to, so they move their way up the protein ladder. And, the source of protein, soybeans have an ideal amino acid profile for turning vegetable protein into animal protein, turning it into flesh. And it doesn't matter whether it's terrestrial animals or fish. And I think there's plenty of opportunities as economies are good in countries and people move up that protein ladder. We're gonna be there to service that need.
Absolutely.
Alan, when you look at regulatory issues for the coming year, what are some of the things maybe that are on your radar that you're paying attention to as well?
Well, I mean, I think probably first and foremost, it's keeping a close eye on the dicamba regulations coming down. Personally, in my part of the world, seeing how that plays out in EPA, if we're able to keep all of our over-the-top applications and all of that, I think that's probably first and foremost. Next on my list would be the Enlist technology. As everybody knows, new label come out, had a lot more, I think, restrictions on it than people anticipated, and there's going to be some big adjustments in those parts of the world, those parts of the country, as to how they can use Enlist. People that had seed ordered since last fall are going to be forced to kind of rethink and maybe regroup on how they do that.
Any final thoughts before I let you head off to your meeting, Stan?
Well, I just like to say I couldn't be more proud to be part of the soybean family. As a soybean producer, every time we get together at these conferences, it just makes me so thankful to see the support that we have of industry, the leadership of young leaders like Alan and others here that are engaged to help represent us and to make sure our voice gets heard across the country, not just in Washington, but across Heartland and with our customers overseas as well. And we've got a great product. We've got great people here in America growing it, and a super value chain to get it to the people that need it across the world.
How incredible is it to spend time with how many thousands of different farmers this week here? We're in New Orleans, beautiful city, beautiful history, but also to be able to talk to Alan in Tennessee.
Yeah. Not Texas.
Or farmers across the country and see what some of their challenges are and maybe how it is different, but also how your challenges and opportunities may be the same.
Absolutely. They all, I might have something in my area that's a little bit different than Stan, but at the end of the day, we all, our challenges and everything are very similar. It all comes down to being able to produce a crop and continue to make a living doing it.
Yeah, I just describe it in two words: humbling and encouraging. It's humbling to be amongst folks here that have a great capacity and a great passion to move our industry forward, and it's encouraging to know that you got capable people that's got your back, can help you out, whether it's on the supply side and our industry partners or folks that we work with together across the United States that in our commodity or other commodities. So it's both humbling and encouraging.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today and stopping by and sharing some of your story and talking a little bit about the industry. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank
Always
you.
a pleasure.
Appreciate
you,
it.
Thank you. Stan Bourne from Illinois and Alan Meadows from Tennessee. I'm Meghan Grebner for Brownfield.